Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to get us started because it looks like we're just a minute past 12:30 Pacific. So welcome. My name is Gena Romano, and I am going to be the moderator for this session. Before I introduce our amazing panelists, though, I'll give you a bit of my background. So I'm the head of human resources for Centerfield Media. I'm based in sunny Los Angeles, California, and I've been with the group for about 3 years. And I really do feel like time flies when you're having fun, because it feels like 3 days ago I started with this company. For context, our employee population consists of about 2,000 employees. That's 300 in the US and the balance in Jamaica, with a small handful of employees based in the UK. So now I'd love for our panelists to introduce themselves, and additionally, in return for their time today, we will be donating to a charity of their choice. So please, May, if you'd like to start, I'd love for you also to share what charity you've selected and why.
Yay, thank you, Gena. Hi, everybody. I'm very excited to be here with Gena and Michael and you all. My name is May. I am the CEO and co-founder of a company called Writer. We're an AI writing assistant for teams with some incredible Twitter and Intuit and non-tech like and the project that I have chosen is a project called the Sentencing Project. They do incredible work. I first heard about them during the BLM protests last year, and they are all about the data. Do a lot of testifying, Congress, federal, and state, and have added so much to the conversation to help change hearts and minds and get actual results in terms of reducing and overturning extreme sentencing. So that is me, and that is Sentencing Project.
Great, thank you so much, May. And Michael, if I can call you Mike, I would love for you to introduce yourself next, and please speak to the charity that you'll be donating to also.
Great, thank you, Gena. And yeah, Mike is completely okay. So yeah, my name is Michael Jester. I am the VP of Operations for Moneypenny. We are a premier telephone answering service that's based out of the UK and now have a presence in the US. We have about 1,200 employees globally, and we kind of are different from a lot of when you think of call centers in that we have a personal assistant that is really takes about 20% of the calls for you, and so it's about that relationship. The other 80% are answered by the team, and so again, it really is about building that relationship and how we answer calls for our clients. And here in the U.S., we're based. You said you're in sunny Los Angeles. We're in Polony, Atlanta, Georgia. So every day we go out, our cars are yellow from the pollen. So the charity that I chose is We Mind the Gap, and this was founded. It's in the UK, and what it does, it gives opportunities to young adults that maybe didn't get a fair chance for whatever reason in life to the point of adulthood. And so while they're still young adults, We Mind the Gap, what they do is they fill that gap with love, support, care, training. They train them in life skills as well as professional skills, and then put them into holistic paid traineeships. About 70% of the graduates of the program still remain successfully employed and engaged in society. And for every dollar invested, it offsets about $3.60 in social value, because we take them off the books of for instance, government support and things. So yeah, it's a great charity. Thank you for giving to them.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. And I have to ask before we get started, Mike, is that your guitar on the wall?
It is. This is my office, and these are my guitars. I cannot play worth anything, but yes, those are my guitars on the wall. So yes, we like to have fun in the office.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, let's jump into things here. So, in my 3 years at Centerfield, I've implemented 5 different platforms. to realize some very necessary HR efficiencies. The three big players that we implemented were a new applicant tracking system, Lever, a new human capital management system, Ultimate Software, and an international payroll provider called ActivePay. And between those three that we implemented, it was a ton of work, a ton of time, but just crucial to the business. And so, May, I'm curious, what platforms do you use? Any products that overlap with the ones that I said today?
Yeah. So I, as the CEO, and obviously have been the CEO since the beginning because I'm also the co-founder. We have seen a real and very fast kind of transition from the tools over time. So just a few short years, we went from Gusto to Namely to Rippling. The initial choice for Gusto, they themselves are going up market, but started as SMB and really focused on tech and startups. And so that was a bit of a no-brainer to start with Gusto as kind of our payroll and all-in-one HR solution. All-in-one definitely didn't exist really until kind of Namely and Rippling came on the scene. So even Gusto, saw itself as a payroll solution when we first adopted it. But the reason we moved off of Gusto to Namely initially was account for remote employees. So our engineering has been digital first from day one. We've got dozens of engineers in just as many countries. I think Ukraine might be the only place where we've got more than one FTE. And Namely was really able to do that. The other big reason we moved off of Gusto, and now they do this too, was benefits. So as we grew as a company, the perks with the job improved, and everything from 401k matching to better health, dental, vision, all of those good things, and that all now comes with Namely. Again, I know Gusto has gone up market as well, but they didn't have those features when we switched. So the move to Namely was really driven by our head of ops. And for folks who have sold to startups, titles and the growth stage really are different, but basically, who is the person who is sort of like the second brain to the founders? That's the person who is going to buy HR software. Because we may have folks who are doing recruiting, we may have folks who are doing onboarding, but it is unlikely before 80 people that you've got somebody in HR who's doing like the software and the HR ops separate from the person who's doing just general biz ops. And so, sub 100, if there are folks on the phone who are selling to those people, find the CEO's proxy in the org, and that's the buyer. So in our case, it was an amazing woman named Maiko who said, May, if you want to do all this stuff and get all these people on board, we got to move to Namely. And so she spearheaded that whole process. Now, as we've grown, we now have a head of finance, and the move from Namely to Rippling was driven by, the head of finance's P1s. And so, one of the first things he did when he came on board about a year ago was basically audit all of our software and SaaS spend. And it was like, wait a minute, we still got Gusto over here because we're using it for contractors in Europe. Here's kind of an all-in-one solution, and guess what? It's cheap. We were out of the IT and security team for device management. That now Rippling, has an all-in-one to a whole other level, has implemented. So I know we'll get into all of this stuff, but that's kind of been like our journey of the most, highest spend HR software categories. We were one of 4 people who you go hire as an TS, so I'm very happy to talk to you all about that. And then, my co-founder and CTO being like, oh, they're never going to sunset this product, and they sunset the product, and so that was fun.
That's great and so interesting. No, so interesting. When I joined Centerfield, we were on Namely, and Centerfield overnight went from a 40-person company to a 1,000-person company.
Wow, amazing.
And Namely is totally fine to let you know that you have outgrown them. And so when I joined, we were at that place where it was like they couldn't keep up with our payroll, they couldn't keep up with the needs of our business. And so that was kind of what caused the shift to a larger software that could support our needs. Mike, how about you? What are the big platforms that you utilize?
Sure. Currently, and we'll come back and I'll share more about what we currently use. We use Paycom in the U.S. and plug it into a kind of home-built back end that kind of covers both the U.K. as well as our U.S. offices that we've nicknamed My Working Life. So, when I first came in last fall here, we had 2 locations in the U.S. We were on Paycom on one, Strovis on another. And it just, to your point, it didn't make sense to have multiple software, SaaS systems, working across those states. In the past, I've been at companies where we used home built systems along with ADP as kind of our payroll solution, as well as you mentioned Ultimate Software. We had last place I worked, we used UltiPro. I think it's now UKG Pro, but it was Ultimate Software. So what we found with Paycom in the US for what we do and how we use it, it is a pretty full, robust system. It allows us to handle all the recruiting information through the same platform. It allows us to do payroll, track vacation, track absences. It also allows us to do training videos, to be HIPAA compliant, and check the box for that all through the same software. Which is really great because that takes a lot of the work off of our marketing team to have to do separate videos. Then how do you track it? It's through an Excel sheet in the past, and so it allows us to really track it through there. And it truly is a solution that works for us. And again, with the back end plugin, that's more of kind of a culture piece that I shared. It works great for us.
I want to remind everybody that questions are totally welcome. Throw a question up there, ask a question in the chat. We are happy to answer those as well. But I want to look at the pre-purchase purchasing decision a little bit and maybe what drives those decisions. I know for me, when I was researching which products to implement and those non-negotiables, there were certain things that I couldn't part ways with. They had to be flexible. They had to be able to grow and scale with us. The interface experience for the employees was the utmost importance for me because those are our customers, and that's what matters, is how they're going to interact with the system, how they're going to like the system. So those were, I think, a couple of things that were really important for me. Mike, you've gone through a lot of different systems, sounds like. What are maybe some of the big drivers that would determine your purchasing decisions?
Sure, and you stole a bunch of them when you said just now. So, to your point, flexibility, scalability, those are 2 huge ones. Ease of use, because again, if you have a program that works for your HR department but doesn't work for your frontline, your employees, it's not something that they're going to use to.
Oh, Mike, I might have lost audio on you. Maybe while he's working through his audio issues, would you mind sharing what some of your pre-purchase drivers are that you take into account?
Yeah, and maybe this is going to be contrarian, and I hate saying this because we have a product in market that competes on ease of use and end user experience. But I got to tell you, when I first logged into Rippling, I was like, we chose this over Gusto and Namely. And Gusto's, it's best, it's world-class end user experience, right? And we just published a blog post around the business case for product delight, and that is a delightful product. Rippling, not so. But to where Mike was going with it, it gave our team, our ops team, really the flexibility, adaptability that we were looking for, and kind of the cost effectiveness that the team was optimizing for.
What made it best in class? What to you made it, the cream of the crop?
So super easy to approve everything from, requests to putting in time off, all from your phone. Everything, like when you see a field that's pre-populated, it just felt like fewer clicks and more interesting copy and design, fewer paths to doing something. And it was just beautiful to look at. That's kind of what I'm going for. And then I think namely, when I say ease of use, and then namely, I thought did a much better job than Rippling at like sort of getting a little bit at like the social and cultural things that some other products do as standalone services, whereas like Rippling doesn't even try, So I liked knowing when work anniversaries were coming up and, kind of softer things like that. And I felt like, the end user experience at Namely and Gusto had that more as a job to be done.
Yeah, as an added feature. And specifically in the Los Angeles market, I can tell you that, the culture that you build within the company is such an important factor in retention and building this cohesion among your employees. And I really do believe that whatever HCM that you use, it plays such a big role in it. And to your point, to have recognition when somebody has an anniversary, it may even, especially if you grow big, right? You may have 5 anniversaries in a day, but for that one person, it feels really special. And I think that personalization, it goes a long way. And you said something else that was interesting about, being able to use your phone. How much weight do you put on the mobile aspect of it, and how easy it is to use to approve PTO on your phone, to be able to look at, your salary on your phone? How much weight would you put on that, May?
Well, so in our purchase decision, we literally put 0 weight on it because we chose a solution that, I don't even think they've got a mobile app yet. The Namely mobile app was so seamless. It was So, really depends on the company and what they value at that time. And, I know from our own sales process, right, the thing that we are most trying to understand from somebody when they want to engage with us, we're completely inbound, is like, what's important to you? What are you trying to solve? And, for us, we weren't trying to optimize for like Habib's CEO experience,
Yes.
But I imagine that if we had like 50 managers, right, mobile experience would be absolutely critical because we want it to be easy for them to manage, the admin aspects of their team.
Yeah, such a good point. Size plays a huge factor. Mike, are you back with us? Do we have audio?
I think so. Can you guys hear me? Good.
Yes,
Good.
yes. So please continue on with what your driving factors are.
Sure, and the last one I was going to mention was integration, and you kind of hit on that with mobile app, and for us, when you're looking at 1,200 people across 2 countries, 3 states in the U.S., it's huge. And being a telephone answering service, we're hiring a lot of people from the younger generation that everything happens off their mobile device. So for us, it was a big factor that weighed in. And, a lot of companies are really scared about the trusting their employees to use the mobile device to clock in. They're going to take advantage of it. But again, I think that's where you mentioned the culture piece, Gena. That's where, we're really big about the culture piece. And for those that still are worried about it, there's geofencing, both in the Paycom app as well as UltiPro in the past. I mean, those options are available, that allow you to put parameters up and still, allow them to use the mobile device and to its capacity. And to your point, May, through growth, allowing those managers, with 1,200 people, we have a lot of managers have to go and improve payroll and allowing them that accessibility to check during the week and have it all done through mobile. I'd say that was a big factor in our decision to move off of Strovis and onto Paycom.
So it sounds like as a whole, there are many factors that we take into account as decision makers. And really a lot of it depends on the size of your company, where you're going, the ability to be able to support those different types of workforces. I think one of very influential piece of this purchasing puzzle to me is the salesperson. And I don't know about you two, but every day my LinkedIn and my work email are absolutely flooded with people trying to sell me a product or trying to sell me something. And it gets you, there's a fine line, I believe, between getting the information that you need when you're making a massive decision, like a human capital management system, for example, where you're going to be spending, hundreds of thousands of dollars on this product, and being too pushy and just annoying the crap out of me. And so I know for me, that's one of the big things, is the way that they massage the conversation with you. We're all so busy. Everybody's too busy these days. And so if they cross the line between making sure you have what you need, checking in, to just being too pushy, being a little bit too forceful in the sale. I've even had situations where the sales individual brought in a gender, like, is there somebody else that should be making this decision? And no, sir, it's actually me. And so that was, for me, non-negotiable. You're done.
Yes.
If you don't believe I'm making this decision, you're out. And so that was one interesting piece for me. But Mike, I would be interested, for you, what makes you cross over from that maybe to an absolute yes?
I think from maybe to yes, I think it's show me the blind spots. I'm open to listening if you can show me the blind spots with what I currently have, with that maybe you're coming with a solution that doesn't have those blind spots. I think if you can show me again the areas that we're missing, because to your point, when you're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for an ACM system and you expected a return on that investment. And sometimes we get into it, we make a decision, and sometimes we realize, we don't see that return. And so when we begin looking again, I think to get my ear would be show me the blind spots. If you want to lose my ear, it is, to your point, harassing, overdoing it, just almost becoming a stalker at times, just taking it too far. And to your point, I've never had anybody ask, share like they did with you, but just really wanting to go around, above, under, to try to, play in almost a parent against a parent, to try to get their solution in. I think that's a no-go for me. Yeah.
And May, how about for you?
That's very helpful feedback from folks as I think about, our sales processes, et cetera, taking notes, like make sure to never go around or above or under somebody. No, we have a great sales team, but it's just so great to hear, unfiltered feedback from folks who get pitched a ton every single day. I loved the show me the blind spot because Mike, you articulated something that for sure I haven't put words to, but when I do find an interaction really valuable, that's really what somebody is doing. And as you were speaking, I was thinking about a decision we just made last week. We went with customer IO over iterable, not in the HR space, but for email marketing. And like, far and away, the iterable person was the standout. Literally like taught me a ton, right? Helped us recruit for a role, super valuable throughout the whole process. But just the product, didn't do what we wanted it to do and required a bit more a technical lift, et cetera. And team was familiar with the other tool more than their tool. I'd used it in previous roles. And we actually just lost a deal at NVIDIA to a competitor who, the champion said, not nearly as good, I know, and I'm paying up the wazoo, but I used it at AWS before, and I just kind of know what to do. And so, I think the big mantra, right, is if you don't lose some, then you're not in enough deals. So for folks on the line, you got to lose some to know that you're really in the market. And when somebody has, shown me the blind spot, I still haven't necessarily purchased, right? Because of that. But where I really appreciate the salesperson and we stay in touch, there was a product I was kicking the tires on, also in the marketing space last year, where I still like that salesperson stuff. He still likes my stuff, so much of it has to do with the value. Did they get you information that you did not have? And we are also busy. If you come with information that is valuable to the role, to the person, where they are in their business and role today, right now, you will be unforgettable. You won't be annoying. So like the real relationship building, isn't, discussion or conversation or weather or sports or where you went to school. I really think the currency is information.
Agreed. And I'll follow up on something you said, May, really good, which is the relationship. There have been times where build relationships with somebody trying to sell something while it wasn't good for us, recommended it to someone else. And so I would say don't give up on the relationship because just because you don't sell to me or May or Gena, we may think in our minds of we know someone in our network that they would be perfect for. And if you build that relationship, and I think the other thing you brought up, which is great, is show me the why as well. Not just the what, not just the how. Everybody can tell me that, but the why. To me, that's super important.
Yeah. Such good points by both of you, and a couple of things that you brought up that I want to touch on. What value, when offices were open, what value did you put on individuals coming into your office and selling to you face to face versus continuing with maybe an email marketing or LinkedIn technique? Did you find that you historically would be more influenced in person, or was there really no difference? And Mike, maybe I'll throw that to you first.
Sure. I would say probably no difference. To be honest, I think I would rather be contacted through, email, through social media before you show up at the office on a cold call. That doesn't go over too well. So, and I think probably with the pandemic we're going through, I think that's probably been driven home a lot to people trying to sell. So yeah, I think I put more on, and I think also when they reach me through social media, when they reach me through whether it's LinkedIn, email, however, it's always nice to know that they've done some research about the company that that I represent. Nothing's worse than they reach out to you, they misspell your company's name, you could tell it's just almost like a checklist versus this is truly something that I want to invest in with you as a partnership. And if it's not worth the time to do that at the front end, is it really worth our time to even go further? So hope that answered your question. I think I chased a little rabbit there.
Yeah. No, I think, if you spell my name Gina, you're getting deleted. You're out of my inbox. Right. I'm not going to entertain it. It's Dena. And if you can't get that right, you're out. May, what about you? Do you find a difference in that in-person sale versus a virtual sale?
Yeah, sure. And again, this maybe illustrates know your buyer, really try to have an idea of this person's personality, right? So unlike Mike, I loved seeing people in person. It definitely played to their advantage when I could put a face to a name. And it wasn't like, oh, I have somebody I could go back to if something goes wrong. I know there are other channels for that. Just you're kind of present for the pitch a little bit more, leaning in a little bit more. Plus, I loved it when people sent, caramel popcorn and chocolate covered pretzels. I live for that. And I can't wait for goodie baskets.
Wow. That needs to be said to every salesperson ever. The more caramel popcorn we can get, the more chocolate we can get, the more you're going to get the sale. Absolutely.
Agreed.
On caramel popcorn for yourself. That just feels extravagant, right? Is somebody sending it to you? Yeah, I'll take that.
Mm-hmm. And you remember them for sending you that and for making you feel good for 15 minutes until you then regret it after eating the whole 10. So
exactly.
And then one other thing that you said, May, that was interesting about a product that you had used in the past, and you just wanted to revisit that. I know our head of recruiting, when we brought him on board and said, we need a new applicant tracking system, he immediately went to what he had previously used, which was Lever. And while I love that, because what an easy implementation for our team, we also kind of have a rule of thumb that you're not going to implement a new system unless we look at 3 different products in that same vein, so that we can, compare and contrast. We can look at the pros and cons. We can weigh out, what's going on, have a conversation, no matter how passionate you are about it. And so, curious if either of you do something similar, or if you have a gut feeling and you're like, this is the one, if you just go with it. May, would you like to start on this one?
Yeah, definitely. So it's not a process per se. As soon as you said that, I was like, it really should be. What we like to ask people, and I just did this yesterday with like a customer success tool, is who do you all consider to be your competitors? Because, they tend to give you like the honest answer. So, fresh in the salesperson's mind who their competition is. And often it's been like not a company that I've even heard of. And it's like, oh yeah, maybe we should check those folks out. And it gets to the why. Okay, I always love to ask as a follow-up to that, where you've lost, why did somebody not choose your solution? That also tends to be like a super honest answer. And allows you to kind of make a decision on whether it even makes sense for us to go check out that other tool or not. We don't have a process per se, but it is a team. Our team is like very speed oriented and very cost conscious. Those are sort of like the 2 things that are a startup's lifeblood. That I think, we don't have a policy per se, but we do like to know that we have kicked the tires around the various products in this space. That being said, I feel like, we are ripe to be sold a culture management tool. We are problem aware and solution aware, but sort of just, in the hierarchy of needs, it just hasn't kind of risen up. But I do think the value to cost of some of those tools will be something that we would, pursue. So I also think that smaller companies, should be ignored. Like we've got a lot of different rooms for different tools in our HR stack, right? It's just they need to kind of be right sized for where we are, right priced for where we are. Sure.
And Mike, how about you?
We really don't, to May's point, we don't have a set in stone that you have to look at 3. We always look at multiple, though, anytime we make a decision, to make sure we're not just, we don't end up with buyer's remorse. The one thing that I do ask of anyone before we make a decision, I always ask to see the roadmap, their technical roadmap, because I want to know if they're innovating. If we look at their roadmap and it's all fixes, and, it's great that they're making the fixes, but what's the innovation? Because as we grow, as we all know, technology, by next week, a lot of things will be obsolete, and a whole slew of new things will be in play. And so really looking and getting a peek at that roadmap to see where they're going, what they're doing, and are we going to be able to grow with them and grow together? That's one of the things that is it's a must once we get in that buying process and begin comparing.
Great. And it looks like we have a question here. I want to remind everybody as well, there's also a poll that you can take. But the question is, what other HR software features aren't as important to buyers as they might seem? For example, May said that mobile wasn't necessarily important to them, but it was important to Mike's team. I think, off the top of my mind, I would say that depending on the system, there are certain products where plug and play isn't what I want. Like for our human capital management system, I wanted it to be completely customizable. And I didn't want something that any company in the US could use that had 1,000 employees. I wanted something that was customizable, but I think that varies by software. May, do you have any thoughts on that?
I feel like some of the solutions were really emphasizing kind of international employees. And the reality is that if you can't handle like multiple different types of contracts, multiple different holidays, and multiple different like payroll systems, then I can't use you for that anyway. And so, and I know this is tough. Like we also, are a startup. And so I do understand like having only some of the features that you need to be able to do a certain something. But I remember being like a little annoyed, like, I still will have to use remote.com. So please don't try to sell me this, because like you don't have the whole thing to get this job done. So, if you know that something is only halfway there, don't push it, let them know, be upfront. Like, this is part of our roadmap to Mike's perspective. If you want an 80-20, we're not quite there, but you can get a 60-40. If you use it right now, we should be at 80-20 in a bit. And that, don't go for the hard sell if it's not, if you know that's not fully baked.
Mike, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Kind of back to what you said, which is, again, customizable. I think there are, I can't think off the top of my head, just because we did build it pretty customized. We customized what they sold, and it was not out of the box. But I think, again, making it customizable so that we're not being bogged down with all those things that maybe we don't use at that time. Yeah.
Great. And we have a couple more awesome questions I want to get to before we wrap the session. We have about 7 minutes left. So, Mike, have you ever switched vendors when you weren't already looking to make a change? How did somebody sharing blind spot insights lead to that sale?
Sure. And it wasn't with an HCM system. It was with a telephony system. What it was, we were on a system that we knew we were getting close to outgrowing. And the blind spots really came down to reporting, data warehouse. They were able to show us how if we stayed on that solution, we weren't going to be able to really grow and get the reporting that we were going to need to. And so I think that's where that blind spot, were we in the market at that moment? No, we knew at some point we were going to have to be in the market. But by somebody coming and telling us, okay, these are your blind spots that you're going to get pretty soon, it really made us sit down and make a decision probably quicker than we would have. Because, let's go ahead and get it done. That way we're not at the place where it becomes so crucial that we end up losing business or we outgrow it and we start seeing problems out of it.
May, have you ever switched vendors that you weren't already looking to make a change? Would you like to share that?
Yeah, it was Namely, actually. So Namely had been reaching out, kind of educating our team. And, I guess they knew that like Micah was the Gusto person about what we could do with benefits if we moved. That was definitely driven by a great salesperson who really understood, like beyond health and dental and vision, savings, retirement, life insurance, and all these things that we ended up adding by virtue of being on moving to Namely.
That's great. And I think along those lines, one last question that came in was, what are your thoughts around employee benefits, health and retirement, for example? So I'm not sure if this question is asking around, the sale of those products, but feel free to interpret however you'd like. Mike, I don't know if you'd like to take this one.
Sure. To me, our culture is really embracing our receptionists. We being a call center, telephone answering service. We operate an upside down pyramid where our CEO considers herself at the bottom, and it's really the frontline receptionists that are the rock stars. And so we embrace and want to make sure they're covered in every aspect of life, both here and at home. We recently made a decision to consolidate all of our health and dental benefits in the U.S. and we're shopping and made a decision based on where we wanted to go with them. We ended up paying a little more out of pocket. With the U.S., I think health and benefits is such a hard area because if you're already with someone, you get discounts without having to go through audits and everything else that you don't if you switch. And we all know with insurance in the U.S., it's I think last year there was a possibility of up to 21% increase year over year if we went elsewhere, and that is a hard one to talk about. But again, it's something that every company wants to embrace, and what sets a lot of companies apart is what they offer and how much they offer and how much they pay. And so I think it's always going to be a difficult subject within the HR space and the operations space on.
I think we might have lost you for a second, Mike.
Okay. Am I back?
You're back. Yep.
Okay. So I think that's something that, did I miss it again? Okay. I'm going to pass
you're
it
here.
on.
We're good.
Gena, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, you answered it great. And you know what? We only have 3 minutes, and I want to ask this one question, and I want to make sure that everybody who's attending and listening has an opportunity to visit both of your profiles and connect with you on LinkedIn, reach out to you. So please, everybody, take some time after the session to do that. But last question, I think it's such a great one. May, I'll start with you. And that is, what platform, product, service do you not have that you wish you did? Whether it's not even created or you just don't have it for budgetary reasons, but what does that platform, product, or service look like to you?
Yeah, I would love to be able to help people like get a babysitter or get their house deep cleaned or not have to worry about meals for a week. You know, like what are the cool, like the element of surprise and serendipity, like 10X's the joy versus like, oh yeah, my company does all of it for me all the time. I'd love to be able to really, reward people and have managers be able to like very quickly, get people things that give them back more free time and more time to like recharge. What we do is so hard for, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day, depending on the day. It can be draining and, to then have to turn around and empty your dishwasher, like, and, I don't want to like, coddle people, that's not like our culture either, but it really, I think, would be nice to be able to reward employees with non-monetary things and benefits and give that kind of discretion to managers. Like, we've got a sprint week and this has to be done at the end of April. Like nobody needs to worry about meals at home this week,
Yes, I love that. And that's really these new generations, I believe what they want are the things that they remember and the way it made them feel, not an extra $500 bonus. They want to remember when they didn't have to clean their house for a week because you gave them a cleaning service and somebody came and cleaned their house for them during sprint week. Or they got to go on a cool excursion and a trip that was totally paid for and they got to swim with some dolphins or something. So love that answer. Mike, 2 minutes. What products do you wish you had?
Oh my gosh, I'm going to go with what May said. I'm taking that away. If I take nothing else away from the day, I'm taking that away. It's to your point. It's we always want to touch our employees' hearts, and unfortunately, most of the time, what gets offered out there is cheap swag. I mean, maybe speaking out of turn, slap my hand, but it's something that doesn't mean anything long term. And I love what you said, May. It's something that makes a difference in their lives. And I think that's what we all want to do as people managers. And so, I'm going to agree with May and say, please, if you offer that, I will take your call.
I have to tell you both, there is a company called Blueboard that you should look up that they do something really similar to that. So check them out. I don't work for Blueboard. I was working with them. They pitched to me about a year ago. So check them out. But thank you everybody for joining us today. Please connect with Mike, with May, with myself. Thank you for your questions and engagement, and I hope you'll have a great day.
Thank you, Gena. Thank you, May.
Gena, thanks, Mike. So nice to talk with you guys.
Bye.